So welcome again to this webinar on the communication tool Remind. Today's webinar won't last a full hour. I think we'll probably be together for about 40 minutes. But at the end, I'll include some instructions if you would like to join a class that I created in Remind. And in this way, you could experience the learner's perspective. So the goal for today is to give a general idea of Remind and how it works. If you decide to try it later and find yourself confused with some details, because I won't go into very many details today, you can contact me. You're welcome to do that. You can also use Remind's frequently asked questions and tutorials, which I found very useful when preparing for this presentation today. So what we're going to do today is look at what Remind is, the reasons why an instructor would want to use text messaging with learners, how it works, how Remind works, how to smooth the path for learners. We're going to look at some ideas for the use of Remind and some challenges that come with its use. I'm also going to compare a couple of other similar tools quickly, and at the end I'll leave you the class code that you can use to join the class that I created. 2 words about myself. I've been in the literacy field for over 15 years, working mostly with Francophone agencies. I actually first started here at Alpha Plus as a librarian, and lately I've been focusing on tech coaching, which we have been doing at Alpha Plus for the past 3 years. So the first thing, I would like to ask you a question, and you can use the question box to answer. So if you could let me know, how do you currently communicate with learners? I will read out loud your answers so that everyone can hear them. Thanks, Allison. So Allison is giving me some answers. She says they're using email, Blackboard. Yeah. I'm assuming a lot of agencies are using email and sometimes the phone, and maybe some forums in some platforms like Blackboard. Thanks, Shannon. So mostly by phone and email, sometimes Facebook. Yes, I've heard some agencies trying Facebook groups or messaging with Facebook. Facebook page, yes. Social media, yeah. Telephone. Thanks, Natalie. Okay, Allison says not great. So I'm assuming you're talking about your Facebook page, Allison. Okay, she says yes. Thanks, Allison. That's great. So I'll keep moving ahead, and if you have more comments while I'm talking about various things, feel free to use the question box. As I said, I have it opened, and I keep an eye on it. So what is Remind? Remind is a tool that makes it possible to communicate with learners using text messages. Text messaging is possible without a tool such as Remind, right? A lot of people have cell phones and we're texting other people and we're not using a special tool. But it would mean to exchange cell numbers between instructors and learners, and this is not the best for keeping your privacy and their privacy. In the case of Remind, there are no phone numbers exchanged. Remind can also be accessed through a browser or an app. The app, you could install it on a tablet or a smartphone. So the communication is not exclusively done through texting when using Remind. Today I'm going to talk a lot about texting because it's sort of something people want to try, but keep in mind that Remind is also something that can be used on the web, in a web browser, or using an app. If, for example, an instructor was installing the app on a tablet to communicate with learners, this means that they would have to use their personal cell phone. So just keep that in mind. It's probably a relief for some of you. if I happen to speak too fast at some point, you can tell me to slow down. So before I go into details about how Remind works, let's quickly look at why an instructor would want to use text messaging in general. So you probably have some reasons that you are thinking of, and you're welcome to add them to the question box. You could use text messaging to improve communication with learners by reaching them where they are, possibly on their cell phone, to remind learners of something specific. For example, a change in schedule that had been planned. Also to let them know of a last-minute change, like having to cancel a class because of a storm. Because Remind can be a two-way communication tool, students can also give you a heads up using Remind. So a coordinator mentioned to me that she noticed learners taking the time to write a text message to let her know that they had to miss a class. And typically they wouldn't do this before using Remind. They wouldn't take the time to call or to send an email, but because it was on their cell phone, they just took the time to say, hey, I'm sorry, I won't be at the class. And last, text messaging could be used to build a stronger relationship between an instructor and learners. This is an interesting idea that is backed by research. In the paper Exploring the Use of Text and Instant Messaging in Higher Education Classrooms, the authors pointed to research that suggests that when students receive text messages from an instructor, they feel more bonded with and think more positively about the instructor and classroom activities. And another research found that using instant messaging facilitated a more intimate student-instructor relationship. Now, this paper focuses on higher education, and it might be different in adult basic education. It would certainly be interesting to find out, but we can assume that in some cases the use of text messaging could have such a positive impact. So how does Remind work? You can sign up with an email address, with a cell number, or with a Google account if you happen to have one. A cell number is not required to open an account with Remind. When I tested Remind myself, I signed up with my Google account and I created a test class and used my cell number to sign up to the class that I had created, and I signed up as a student with my cell number. So in this way I could do some testing. So you could do the same, and when your testing is done, you can easily remove your cell number. You can remove yourself as a student and add your cell number to your account as a contact number. So once you do that, you will receive notices on your cell phone if you communicate with learners through Remind. So this is how it looks when connected to Remind through a web browser. You could add learners yourself, as you can see here, or they can join by themselves, which we are going to look at in a minute. But first, I want to show you how to add your cell number if you signed up with an email address, because I want to show you where are notifications in Remind. So at the top, you click on your name, and then you get this drop-down menu that you see in the middle of the screen, and clicking on notifications opens the screen on the right. And under text message, then you can add your cell number. So this is where you would add a cell number. This means here that you're receiving notifications on your cell phone. You can also see that I have two email addresses here. These email addresses are used by Remind to send me a notification if a participant in my class has sent a message. So I don't have to log into Remind to know that someone has sent a message. I get those messages in my email, and I get it on my cell. And as you can see with the check marks beside my cell number and email addresses, notifications can be managed. So I could decide to not receive notifications in some of these channels because that could be overwhelming. But I just wanted to show you that Remind us different ways of making sure that the communication gets to you. So the first step after creating your account and enabling notifications is to create a class. It's very simple. You give your class a name, and for each class you create, you'll choose a code that learners will use to join the class. This code will start with the @ symbol. This is what you see on the screen here as an example. There's the @ symbol and then class 201. This is the code used by learners. So once you have created a class, how do learners join? Learners will be able to join your class either with a cell phone, on a computer using a browser, or by installing the Remind app on their smartphone if they happen to have a smartphone. So the same as for the instructor, they can use different devices. I will come back to joining via text message in a second. So even if a learner doesn't have a cell phone, they could still access the messages sent by their instructor if they log into Remind on a computer. For those of you who would prefer to use the Remind app rather than text messaging, the app is available for both Android and iOS devices, and it works on smartphones as well as on tablets. I have tried it myself on an iPad, on a tablet, and it's very simple to use. You'll notice today that I haven't done any screenshots from the tablet because it's very intuitive to use. It's somewhat similar to the web version, so I focused on the web version today, but if you decide to use the app, I don't think you'll find it too difficult. So back to joining. So when a student joins online, all the learner has to do is to go to the web address showing on the screen at the top, the remind.com/join, and they get the screen in which they input the class code in the field. Next, the learner will be asked for his or her name and either a cell phone number or an email address. And he or she could also be joining with a Google account if they happen to have one. When you do that, you click on sign up with Google, and then you enter your credentials for your Google account and you open your Remind account. Any questions so far? I know I'm going a little fast. No? Okay, I'll keep going, and don't be shy if something is not clear. So when joining on a cell phone, this is where it gets interesting. So the learner will text the class code to a phone number. The phone number has been assigned to you, the instructor, by Remind when you created the class. So you get that phone number. On the screen, you can see a screenshot of the dialogue between the learner and Remind. So first you see the class code sent by the learner. In this case, it's @GALF. Then Remind responds, an automated response, asking the person to enter their name. So this is how the instructor will know who has joined. So by answering, here it's Paul who answers. So in my class, I will, what I showed you at the beginning, I had a class open, so I'll have the names of people. So I'll know that Paul has joined. And then next, Remind asks the person to indicate if they are a student, a parent, or a teacher, responding with an S, a P, or a T. So Remind is broadly used in the US by elementary school teachers, and this is why parent here is one of the options, if you're wondering. So once a learner has joined the class, he or she will get a text message confirming that he has joined the class, and this starts the thread of messages with their instructor. So this is what you can see on the screen. Those messages are automated messages they get. What would come next after these messages is a personal message from their instructor. Learners can reply to this number to send a message directly to their instructor if the instructor has allowed it. I might talk about it a little bit later, but Remind doesn't have to be a two-way communication tool. You could decide to only broadcast messages and not receive messages. So it's a choice you can make for your classroom. So joining a class either with a cell phone or on a computer could be challenging for many learners. As you've seen, there are some steps, there is some reading that needs to be done. So helping them with the process can teach them some digital skills at the same time. So depending on the type of device they are using, they will need to know how to create an account, how to log in, how to read on the screen. They might need to know how to search and install an app, or they might have to learn how to send a command on their cell phone. So to help them, you could, for example, do an activity about what's required to open an account, how to choose a strong password. You could do a printout of the Remind screen on the cell phone to help them understand the process. And also you could do the sign up in a class as a group to make it easier for everyone. You could also do some testing with a small group ahead to foresee any challenges. So maybe with the keeners, you could try Remind for a period of 2 weeks and see how it goes. Are there any questions so far? No? Okay. Don't be shy. So some ideas for using Remind. What can Remind be used for in the context of a literacy program? Some instructors use Remind as an extra channel to communicate with learners. It supplements other means of communication like face-to-face, email, phone calls. It could be used for a limited time in the context of a specific class or project. It's practical to schedule ahead some announcements, a registration deadline, a meeting time, a special celebration. You could send learners warm-up questions before class. You could send links to resources, and you could also send files as attachments. This would work if the learners are using Remind in a web browser or on a tablet or a smartphone. It wouldn't work if they were using Remind only with their cell phone texting. It's possible for an instructor to send a message to an individual learner. So one could send a message of encouragement or congratulations. Also, as most of us know, LBS agencies are required to do follow-ups with learners after they leave a program at 3, 6, and 12 months. I'm aware that some agencies are trying different communication channels like email to reach learners once they have left the program, and I know that this is difficult. So Remind could potentially be used for that. I don't know that it is used by anyone right now for that purpose. If it were, as you know, there's a lot of information to gather in those follow-ups, so text messaging would probably make it hard to gather all the information. But Remind could possibly be used to send a link to a live survey that the learners could open in a browser. So there are some ways maybe Remind could help with that task of gathering the information from the follow-ups. And if any of you has some suggestions, you're welcome to put them in. So there are a few things to be aware of when using a tool like Remind. You have to be mindful of the cost of text messages. If your cell phone plan provides only for a limited number of text messages that you can send. It shouldn't be a problem for learners receiving messages because receiving typically doesn't cost anything, but if they send messages, it could cost them. So if learners are using the Remind app or if they're using Remind on the computer, then there won't be a cost. If they're receiving messages from their instructor, there shouldn't be a cost, but if you enable two-way communication, if they can respond to you, every time they respond to you, it could count in their plan as a message sent. So you have to be aware of that. Obviously, access to a cell phone or a computer might be a barrier for many learners. Too many messages sent might mean that your audience will stop paying attention. So that's something else to be aware of. A lot of information goes through Facebook and people sometimes stop paying attention. So this is the same kind of idea where you have to use it with caution. Any questions, any comments? No? Okay, I'll keep going. So there are other communication tools that are very much like Remind. One is Class Parrot and the other one is Class Pager. Class Parrot offers 500 messages for free and then 200 messages per month additional for free, and then it costs $9 a month to get more. Then Class Pager offers in a free account, it provides only one classroom with a limit of 25 students, and then if you want more, it's $10 a month. And for Remind, so you can compare here, Remind is free, and according to its website, there's a limit of 100 classes per account, and each class can have an unlimited number of participants. Now, I haven't tested that, but this is what it says on their website, and it is free to use. There's no monthly cost. So it's kind of the best deal in town if we compare with these two other tools. So before we all move on, I'm almost at the end of the presentation. I just want to give you the class code in case you want to try my test class. And today I didn't go into any details about Remind because I thought the best way would be probably to try it, because when I tried it I discovered some things that are difficult to convey in a presentation, and it's fairly easy to use. So the class code is @GALF. This is what you can see on the screen. You can use the web address on the left, or you could use the phone number on the right to send the code. If you join through the web, you'll find yourself opening an account, as we have just seen a few slides ago. And if you do that, the web interface that you will see as a learner is the same as it is for the instructor. So if you wanted, you could create a class in that account to do some testing. Excuse me. If you join by cell phone, I've done that a while ago, and once you have joined, you can still go to the web afterwards to join, and the class will recognize you, and then you can add an email address to your account, and you'll be able to see just the same the web interface. So you can join kind of twice, and there's no issue with that. You'll be the one learner in my class. Don't worry about double signing up for the class. So I will send a few messages, so you'll see them pop up wherever you decide to receive them. You can go, well, if you sign up with the cell phone, it's obvious it's going to come on your cell phone. If you sign up for the web, on the web, you'll be able to go and choose where you want to get your notification. So you could add a cell phone there. So I'll send a few messages, and I have enabled two-way communication in my class, so you can respond to me. So that's something to keep in mind. I could have decided to just have a one-way communication and you wouldn't be able to converse with me, but in this case it's possible. So that's something you might want to think of if you decide to use Remind. For certain purposes you might enable that two-way communication, and other times in other classrooms, other groups, you might not. And I'm sure at some point you want to leave class, so I've put that here. So when you no longer want to be in my class, you can simply enter the code @leave on your cell phone or at the same number you signed up to. So it's the same number, you'll keep that on your cell phone. And in a web browser, you click on the gear icon as shown on the screen of the class, and you choose leave this class in class settings. It's fairly simple, so you shouldn't have too much trouble with that. Any questions? Comments? Shannon says, I like the idea of a link to a survey for follow-up. Great idea. Yeah, Shannon, if you try it, let us know, because some agencies come to us and ask, of practices that are working for these follow-ups. So if you find that it's working, or if you see that in some ways it's not working, it's always nice to document that and let others know what are the things that are working. Any other comments or questions? No? What happens if someone calls a number? Thanks, Alex, for asking. It's a good question. Those numbers are automated numbers distributed by Remind, so they're not attached to a phone, to anyone's phone. I was tempted to try, but I didn't have time. But I could try. You could try yourself if you sign up for Remind and open a class. Yourself, you'll get a phone number, and the phone number will have your area code. I've tested Remind when I was in different places, and the area code you get for the phone number will change depending on where you're located. So you will get a phone number for your class you create, and it should have, that's my experience so far, it should have an area code that's local, so you could call the number and find out what happens. I don't know if there's an automated message from Remind. I'm not sure. Any other questions? No? Okay, so I'll just ask you guys, I'll just go back because I would like to okay, I'll just type to you all the address for, if you give me a sec. For joining, so you'll have it in the chat box. Okay, and that the next thing I'll do, well, I'll put in the codes, so that might be helpful. So that's for joining the class at Galf, and for leaving the class, it's at leave. So you have those in the chat box if you want to try them right away. And then the next thing I will ask you guys is if you could do the survey. So I'm just putting this in here. And you will get a remind tomorrow about the survey as well. And maybe I'll send a message through Remind about the survey for today's webinar. So if you could fill that out, that would be helpful to us. And are there any other questions? Comments? No? It's good. So I'll put in my email address, and if you try Remind and you find yourself stuck somehow, or you want to add a learner to your class, I'll be happy to join. So this is my email address if you want to send me a message and have questions. No problem, Shannon. I see you're saying thanks. No problem. I found it quite easy to navigate Remind, so that's why I didn't give details about where to go on the web interface. There's not that many options, so if you try, I think you'll find it fairly easy to find your way. So thanks all for joining us today, and I'm sure you will see you again soon. You have on the screen the address for the coming webinars. There's one coming up in December, and I forget which tool, but you can go in the, on our website and find out which tool will be showcased next time. Thanks.